The word gravitas. When I think of that word, I think of something that has weight, something that has merit, that has substance to it. I remember being a young kid and my grandmother graduated from Lemoore High School, and grandmother, she was 97 when she passed. I remember she called me in after graduating from high school and for my graduation present. She said, "Sit down, Lorenzo." And she had an old 64 Impala in the garage, flat tires, rusted out, and I was like, "Oh Lord, I hope my grandma's not going to give me this for my graduation." She said, "Relax, son. I'm not going to give you that for your graduation. You're not going to get the car." And she sat down with me and she began to talk to me about stories. You know, I have 7 uncles, and I remember she was telling me that she worked in the cotton fields. She came from Fort Worth, Texas, her and my grandfather, Oliver. And she was in the cotton field. She was a supervisor. She had 30 people that was under her. She chopped cotton. She was picked cotton. My grandmother was everything to our family, the backbone of our family. And I remember she sat down with me in that kitchen. She said, "Sit down, son. I'm going to tell you some stories here. You know, you're all state. I was all state. I was California Athlete of the Year. I was #1 in the state in wrestling. I was Northern California Athlete of the Year. I was All-American in football, all these sports. And, you know, was one of the best athletes in California. Beat out the likes of Curtis Conway, you know, Janet Evans, who won the Olympics. She said, Janet's the queen, and said, Lorenzo's the king. And everyone in the small town of Lemoore said, God, Lorenzo's the king. He's California Athlete of the Year. My grandma said, "Come here, sit down." And she started talking to me. She mentioned the word gravitas. And she talked about having, you know, 7 boys. And she told one of the thing that stuck with me so much. She said, my Uncle Joe, she was pregnant with my Uncle Joe at 7 months, 8 months pregnant. And she went home on a Wednesday after work. And she had my Uncle Joe Wednesday night. She didn't come, you know, Thursday she took off. Friday she came back to work. And I said, "Grandma, but why'd you come back to work on Friday? You could have just took the weekend off." And she said, "Son, you know, coming from Fort Worth, Texas, you know, being, you know, coming, you know, having all your uncles, your uncles," she said, "never take a vacation when the boss is around." She said, "They'll realize how much they don't need you." And at that moment, she would start talking about gravitas, and I knew that my grandmother had gravitas. I knew that what she was telling me at that moment, I said, okay, well, what was that really about? And it was years later when I, you know, went to college and high school. Well, after I got out of college and I went into the pros and started playing in the National Football League. I remember seeing guys that, you know, that would take a day off and no longer, then, you know, the coach would call them in, "Come see coach," and they would cut them, bring in someone else. I remember calling my grandmother when I got with the Saints in my 2nd or 3rd year, and she said, "Gravitas." And I told her, I said, "Never take a vacation when the boss is around." I said, "They'll realize how much they don't need you." What she was telling me at a young age, when I was 17, 18 years old, she was saying, "Son, have gravitas. Right now you're on top of the world. People are patting you on the back, telling you this and telling you that." She said, "But if you don't have sustainability, if you don't understand what it is to have that weight, to be able to get up when you're getting knocked down, when you're hurt, not wanting to get out there and practice, think how hard you work to get here." And my grandmother, that story that she was telling about having my Uncle Joe, going back to work the next day, taking one day off, could have took the weekend off, but saying, "Never take a vacation when the boss is around," because she'll know how much they don't need you. She was saying, "Son, you're replaceable." She was telling me, "Lorenzo, no matter how high you get, no matter what you do in life, you're replaceable. Have your gravitas." If you don't have that gravitas, if you don't have that substance, that inner being that be able to answer the bell when times are tough, because tough times don't last, tough people do. You have to have gravitas. And that's a word that stuck with me, and it comes from my grandmother. May she rest in peace. Gravitas. Do you have it?